We all love to travel. We see it as this incredible force for good, right? A way to boost economies, connect cultures. But have you ever stopped to wonder if the benefits we imagine are actually reaching the people who call these beautiful places home? Well, today we're going to climb a ladder that helps us understand who really holds the power in tourism and who might be getting left at the bottom. Okay, let's get into it.
First, let's just get a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about here. In 2017, tourism was a massive engine for the Philippines. I mean, it contributed a whopping 12.2% to its entire gross domestic product. That is billions and billions of dollars pouring into the country.
And it's not just about the money, it's about people's lives. In that same year, the industry supported 5.3 million jobs. Think about that. From the person at the hotel desk to the local tour guide, tourism is putting food on the table for millions of families all across the islands. So you've got these huge numbers, billions of dollars, millions of jobs. It sounds like a perfect success story, doesn't it? But here's the million-dollar question. When a fancy new resort opens up or a popular tour takes off, is that wealth actually trickling down to the local communities, or is it going somewhere else? And that right there is the heart of the problem. Researchers have a term for it, elite capture. It's this idea that if the local people aren't deeply involved, all that money from tourism can just bypass them completely, ending up in the pockets of outside investors or a few powerful players. So what's the fix? Well, the answer might be to just flip the entire model on its head. Instead of that top-down approach, there's this really powerful alternative called community-based tourism, or CBT for short. And it's designed to solve this exact problem. The idea is pretty simple, but honestly, it's revolutionary. Community-based tourism puts the local people in the driver's seat. It's not just about hiring them for jobs. It's about giving them a real voice and a real stake in how tourism unfolds in their own backyard. This way, the benefits actually stay local. Okay, but participation, that's a kind of a slippery word, isn't it? I mean, does it just mean you get to give your opinion? Or does real participation mean you actually have the power to make the final call? Well, as it turns out, there are levels to this whole thing. And to really get our heads around these levels, we can use this brilliant framework called the ladder of citizen participation. Just picture a ladder. At the very bottom, you have no real influence, and at the very top, you have complete control. It's a spectrum of power. Let's break it down into three big chunks. Way down at the bottom, you've got non-participation. That's basically just for show. In the middle, there's tokenism. This is where communities get a seat at the table, but they don't really get to decide what's on the menu. And then at the very top, this is the goal, you have genuine citizen power, where the community truly holds the authority. Now, to see how this all plays out in the real world, we're going to look at three completely different tourism models in the Philippines, and each one sits on a different rung of this ladder of participation. First stop, we're heading to the world-famous El Nido Resorts in Palawan. This is a privately owned group of luxury islands, and they've actually made a real effort to involve the local community in how they do things. So El Nido Resorts operates on something they call a quadruple bottom line, where community is a key pillar. They actively consult with locals on their policies, treating them like important partners. But, and this is the absolute key, at the end of the day, the final decision-making power stays with the private company. So where does that put them on our ladder? Right smack in the middle, in the territory of tokenism. The community is heard, their opinions are valued, which, don't get me wrong, is a huge step up from nothing, but they don't hold the ultimate power to make the call. All right, let's climb up a rung and see a different approach. We're going to Kawit, Cavite, where a totally different model took shape. This one is all about partnership, a community teaming up with an outside group to build skills from the ground up. In this case, a non-governmental organization, an NGO, called Fundación Santiago, didn't just ask for opinions. They got in there and actively trained people. They taught residents how to research their own local history, map their own cultural treasures, and, get this, create and run their very own heritage tours. Now, this partnership model moves us up the ladder into the first real stage of genuine citizen power. You could call it delegated power. The community, armed with these new skills, now has significant control over the tours they themselves created. They're not just being consulted, they are actively sharing and negotiating power. And that brings us to our final story, and it is a truly inspiring one. This multi-award winning initiative represents the very highest rung of our ladder, the Bojo Alugunsan Ecotourism Association, or BAETS, over in Cebu.
This story is just incredible. With some initial help, a group of local fishermen took complete ownership of the Bojo River Tour. They became the guides, the managers, the board of directors, the whole shebang. This is a business run by the community, for the community. It provides a living for over 50 families and has won major international awards for its work.
And this, right here, is a perfect illustration of the top of the ladder: citizen control. The community isn't just a partner anymore, it is the authority. BAETS has full control and responsibility for everything: management, policies, and the future of their tourism destination. Okay, so we've seen these three different rungs: consultation, delegated power, and full control. But here's the big question. Does climbing this ladder actually lead to better results? Does more power actually equal more progress for the community? Well, the data says a big, loud yes. A study of ecotourism sites in Cebu, including that Bojo River project we just talked about, found that they made a high contribution to fighting poverty across the board. We're talking about uplifting people's standard of living, providing for their basic needs, and improving their social well-being. It's a win-win-win. And it's not just about the money either. Another, broader study in the province of Romblon looked at how community-based tourism impacts sustainable development as a whole, and the results were crystal clear. It had a positive impact on every single pillar: the economy, the environment, the local culture, and even local politics. So here's the takeaway. The level of community participation seems to directly link to the level of benefit. When you're on the lower rungs of the ladder, there's a real risk that communities get left behind. But as they climb higher, as they gain more power and more control, tourism transforms into this genuine tool for sustainable development and for lifting people out of poverty. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As travelers, the choices we make have real power. The tours we book, the hotels we stay in, the businesses we support, every single one falls somewhere on this ladder. So maybe the next time you plan a trip, it's worth asking yourself, what rung of the ladder am I supporting? And am I helping to build a system that truly empowers the people who live there?